Liking comic book related media used to get people shoved in lockers, like me but with anime before some pop musician said it was cool, ridiculed for enjoying something inherently silly or harmlessly bizarre, despite science fiction's apparent unkillable relevance in pop culture. What's up with that? But then something happened. A sudden wardrobe change by the media meant to be an adaptation of the cause of said mockery, a tonal and aesthetic middle ground created between geeks and jocks, seemingly at the cost of what felt to me like some of comic books' integral qualities: camp, whimsy, surrealism, escapism, earnestness. Fun fact, the Dark Knight trilogy has more written whimsy than all of its tonal imitators combined, and people getting blindsided by the grounded aesthetic misled them into believing grimdark as the secret sauce. The result? Comic book movies appealing to people who let their inner kid die. Awesome. Then Kevin Feige was in a good mood and inexplicably hired Slither director James Gunn to shoot the MCU to space with comedy as a good enough justification to be as strange and sincere as your average Silver Age run panel. It was fun. What happens when you give the weirdness afforded by those C-tier characters to the pop culture symbol of all time? What happens when you give this guy the key to Superman? A comic book movie. A movie that's like a comic book is what you get. What do I mean? There's a level of ease with which comic books flaunt their surrealist elements movies don't often afford to imitate, not to completely alienate their much larger demographic of non-comic book readers, normies, peasants, some actually illiterate. Now James did a funny thing and used Superman to draw a clearer line between looking like a comic book and feeling like one. The evil tech CEO has a collection of kaijus in his basement. The right amount of spite will have you figure out how to replicate a Big Bang to open another dimension and use it for additional office space and a prison for your ex-partners. He can just do that. Presenting all this so matter-of-factually begs the question, why explain a thing as absurd as a Justice Gang, metahumans roaming about, for the audience's comfort if treated as completely normal in-world? It's just there. It's like representation. It doesn't need a justification. Guy Gardner didn't need an origin. Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific didn't need an origin. Neither did Frozone or Gazerbeam at the wedding. Additional info about whatever planet or portal funny-looking people came from won't help ground the film where dimensional imps are a street-level issue. The movie presents its whimsy the same way Harry Potter reveals a new castle quirk, so casually with a pinch of wonder. It's a magical world and it's been spinning for centuries now and doesn't plan on slowing down for the audience to better get accustomed to the lunacy, like stumbling mid-season into a Saturday morning cartoon, or better yet, a comic book. I don't even think I understand the bravery it takes to present a literal army of monkeys tasked with steering online outrage against Superman in a way that barely feels like a joke. It's crazy the stuff you can get away with if your tone's consistent enough. How does attributing only so much whimsy to a character originating from material depicting kaijus as a weekly occurrence feel so right yet so groundbreaking, controversial? Why does showing Superman in a state of physical stress feel like such a refreshingly subversive decision? For a character deemed so boring and simple, why is his list of on-screen requirements 10 pages long? Does there need to be a riot decrying whatever decision taken by whatever maestro tasked with rebooting a character for the 50th time? Casting, costume, setting, tone, narrative, they're coming for you one way or another, holding opinions not based on whether a thing is good or bad, but rather familiarity. Repelled by any form of idiosyncrasy applied to a brand, no matter how appropriate or charming, seeing the slightest sign of individual zest as sacrilegious. Old man criticisms inevitably charging this movie for qualities praised in Gunn's prior work. That inherent comic book silliness, that animal prominence, that occasional grime reminding you of the man's horror roots, or that musical core. Who's the curmudgeon who said Superman couldn't have any of that jazz? Are we implying that a Superman project necessitates the sacrifice of one's artistic identity? What if Batman Returns wasn't directed by Tim Burton? His DNA was branded all over that movie the same way The Dark Knight was arguably more Nolan than Batman, the same way Batman v Superman was a Snyder film through and through. All equally idiosyncratic, at best permitting the filmmaking to seduce you by pulling off things you'd never think could ever work on paper, flabbergasting you visionary style. Something about how effortlessly creative that Mr. Terrific scene was in design and execution, from the choreography to the seamless, coherent staging of 45 different things happening all at once, including one Planet Watch worker getting electrocuted by the force field for accidentally stumbling into it, and Mr. Terrific balletically moving across the frame, was the sort of stuff I think people described when talking about Elvis. That needle drop was half the euphoria. James Gunn didn't earn his filmmaking cred only to dilute his most defining traits while making his biggest movie to date. I'm happy to say that a Superman film contains elements of body horror. Just like Tim, Chris, and Zaki Poo before him, James acquired a good enough reputation not to sacrifice his quirks just to make a Superman film. If that means a couple of needle drops, you let him. I don't know about you, but half the hype is geared towards seeing a director do the thing that earned my investment. Why suppress this? Asking myself whether a thing is bad or just different is what keeps my brain from imploding whenever a character I know and love is executed differently. Whether you like it or not is fine, but to assert there only being one way to do a thing, ignorant of its stylistically and tonally versatile origins, is a harmful, unproductive, narrow-minded way to engage with any works and should have you banned from the discourse until thorough re-evaluation. These guys perform maturity and seriousness at all times, needing a film to provide this hyper-reverent, stoic reflection of their unwhimsical, miserable lives to the point of getting enraged at Superman carrying a mere glimmer of levity. Get well soon. It only takes a bit of curiosity and open-mindedness to realize the accuracy at play. Innocent, emotive, goofy, and no stranger to getting folded, something power scaling in film discourse also now prevents people from appreciating. Enjoying a protagonist taking a severe beating for dramatic purposes doesn't make you a sadist. It's relatable. Me when tired, me when employed, me when I haven't posted a video in 2 months, me when 8 likes, me during any minor inconvenience, me when I get folded by a faceless suit of armor. He's me. James did for dorks what Nicholas Winding Refn did for quiet teens, romanticizing kindness and naivete, potentially saving an entire generation of men. The movie not being as messy as this poster would suggest is one of its 57 miracles, but that's the thing. Writing and designing this world so independently from whatever audience introduced to it as if it existed long before we just so happened to stumble on it is what I think saves it from the X-Men The Last Stand, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 brand of story vomit it would have been otherwise. This world already feeling so crowded and fleshed out could explain that Supergirl cameo not reading as much as a cheap trigger. She's just passing by from around the block being some neighboring solar system, no stress. Speaking of which, taken aback by Kara being a girl failure, I turned to my friend and asked, is she like this in the comics? He said, yeah, so I asked myself, what would have been the alternative? Have her be indistinguishable from her golden boy scout of a cousin, pure and inoffensive not to offend the comic book reading nuns in the audience? You know what? I like that she looks like she did a few lines of coke. Gives her character. She crashed into that fortress like a ray of sunshine and left, further enriching the vibes. Almost a flawless masterpiece from my prayers, but as much as I'd rather take the time to give attention to the things I beg studios and its workers to absorb, not wanting them to get the wrong idea behind me punching 4 super tickets, some stuff got in its way towards what I could define as perfection, in the way of this generation's Spider-Man 2. Some notes: I wish we were given a new melody, something that could have been comparable to those legendary guitar solos often spoken about instead of that hypnosis tactic of spamming that Williams theme remix ad nauseum with this track as the most egregious. I nearly couldn't believe it. Expected more from you, John. I wonder if I should feel bad for identifying David Fleming as the weak link. What if I wanted more than this manufactured vibe manipulating me to feel something? I mean, it kinda worked, but I just won't talk about it the same way I talk about Elfman's score for that train sequence or how John Powell's Phoenix theme makes me levitate. I wish the editing wasn't trying to give old folks like me a heart attack. Too many cuts. Annoyed by unnatural dialogue straightly written for the audience, repeating info already known to the characters in world, like you've been showing Superman this corrupted video file of his demonic parents and that robot still feels the need to say, and the rest of the message is lost. As if he doesn't already know that. Could have tweaked that. I'm still torn on that thing. I wish the lens bordered more on the Suicide Squad's grittier, palette diverse, textured side rather than the better parts of the Flash. Can we figure out how to light faces brightly again without making them look like bloodless marble figures devoid of depth and warmth? Why does everyone look like a vampire? Okay, I might want to backtrack a little bit about all that. Aside of those 3 MCU-looking scenes, the movie looks fine to great, to the point of me feeling bad about complaining even this much. I'm just still bitter about the whole color grade debacle. That one time I agreed with the internet. Looks fine otherwise. I yearned for more of that Gunn Braham dramatic directional beam light complementing the film's pleasantly unruly camera, but I was shocked to see snap zooms be used in a way I didn't think was allowed anymore in comic book movies. The Suicide Squad was on that business, but giving this to Superman hits different. Side note, the in-cam filmmaking here explains name-dropping Sam Raimi, even if it doesn't nearly come close to Bill Pope's painterly, Matrix-adjacent frames, but Superman's general brightness could have you think they shot this in the early 2000s, which is a compliment in of itself, especially for those fortress sequences almost conveying the fresh, unpolluted Kryptonian filtered air. Every shot in there looks like a tall glass of water at 3 a.m. You see it, right? This place, this setting, this atmosphere, my personal aesthetic equivalent of a candy store. Big fan of the occasional sunlit dusty lens. The shot placement also adds to the film's expressiveness, not being a collection of eye-level close-up medium close-up shots in between the CG set pieces. You'll get funny shots like this. It also helped to humanize Superman through the camera, showing him as both triumphant and small instead of constantly framing him as this monolithic deity. It's like he's a person. Groundbreaking. I forget what film I thought to use to bring this up, and working only on vibes here, but I get the sensation that movies tapping into more negative emotions, sadness, anger, grief, often associated to more mature narratives, are put above those meant to spark positive ones. You know, Happiness, the thing only kids are allowed to feel for free. A sentiment that could interfere with people appreciating this for what it is, not wearing a suit to perform thought provocation to earn the respect of people who wouldn't care less otherwise. What's the point of catering to people who see comic books as beneath them? This isn't an overcorrection, it's retribution, in the form of a $250 million film rewarding people for not having lost their whimsy. This is what school counselors meant when warning bullies that nerds might become their bosses. The hierarchy of power is about to change. If you used to watch Saturday morning cartoons, you won. If you still watch Saturday morning cartoons, you won. If you've ever been infantilized for actively engaging with child-friendly media, you won. If you like Superman, you won. Bright, goofy, whimsical movie. Immaculate vibes. A Superman movie being this creatively controversial, for better or for worse, shows that there is still more than enough novelty left to be explored by the character, the brand. I like it when a Superman movie is made in a way that doesn't gatekeep children out of the target audience, bringing people to the horrific discovery that kid-friendly media might help them get through the day. That comic books, strange and earnest, might actually be fun and good. What a time to be a nerd. Thanks, James. Go rest.